Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Quintessential Rhythm Podcast. In this month's episode, we are interviewing our first guest, the Egyptian Stallion himself, Yosef Nasir. A big thanks to him for coming onto the podcast to share his experiences in the dance and rhythm game communities. It is our sincere hope you will enjoy this episode. If you are a member of the dance and rhythm game communities and would like to be a part of our show, please reach out to us through our social media platform. You can learn more about Pump Pro Plus by subscribing to our YouTube channel, liking us on Facebook, or following us on Twitter. With our introduction out of the way, let's get on with the show.
Hey there guys, this is Creevelous, and I want to thank you all for tuning into the second episode of the Quintessential Rhythm Podcast. And today I have a very special guest. In fact, he's my first special guest, and it's the Egyptian Stallion Yosef here. So go ahead and say hi to everybody out there, Yosef.
What's going on?
Hey, I'm glad to have you here, man. Thanks for coming over and hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So I wanted to have you in as a guest on the show, and I'm glad you're my first guest because I think you're a perfect guest to have on anytime. It doesn't matter, even if it's the first or definitely not the last. But even if you were the last, I think that would be swell too. But I wanted to have you on and just have you talk about your experience in the dance game community and everything, and you can give me. I want to know your thoughts on about Pump It Up XX since you've been playing it quite a bit now and getting back into the groove of playing Pump It Up and that. So go ahead and just introduce yourself to everybody out there that might not know who you are.
So like as Crippler said, I'm Egyptian Stallion, also known as Yusuf. I've been playing Pump It Up for, I want to say, how long has it been? 16, 17 years at this point. But I took a long break for a while, but then as soon as I found out about District Eat and Play down the street, I've been going for the last few years, starting to get back into it. I feel like I can get my quickness back, but it's been great, and it's nice to get back into getting involved with the pump community and rhythm games in general.
Yeah, man, like it's great to have a great really excellent location such as District Eat and Play and over in Oviedo, and while I wish they were a sponsor, probably give them lots of love just because that's our basically home location that we play at. But I think you and I met at Disney Quest, didn't we, before?
Yep.
So let me ask you a couple questions if that's all right. But what got you into playing Pump It Up or dance and rhythm games in general?
Well, when I first started going to Disney Quest, I want to say I was still in middle school at the time. I was probably about 7th or 8th grade. And at the time when I first started going to Disney Quest regularly, I got an annual pass. I didn't really go with the intentions I'm going to go play the dance machine. I went because I just love video games in general. Played like the arcade basketball machines, Daytona USA race car, all the classic games. And then they had a DDR machine where a bunch of my friends that also hung out there, they started playing it. And to be honest, for probably like the first, I want to say almost a year they started playing it, I still didn't really have interest in starting it because I felt like I was a really shy kid. I thought maybe, I was kind of embarrassed to kind of put myself out there to go on this game, especially when you had tons of people. At the time, this was when Disney Quest really at its peak, when you had tons of people walking by. I kind of felt embarrassed to kind of play a game, especially I haven't did before. And then the ironic thing was they got Pump It Up machine, and when my friends started to kind of make the transition to the Pump It Up machine, which is newer at the time, then there was a little bit less attention on the DDR game. So I'm figuring like, okay, maybe now I'll try DDR. so everybody else is going to the Pump It Up machine. So I started playing DDR for a month, and I really enjoyed it. I kind of, I was learning pretty slow, but I found myself improving, each time I went. Because we went every Friday and Saturday at the time, and so it didn't take too long to pick it up. But then I want to say after playing DDR for probably about 2 or 3 months. Then I'm like, okay, now I'll try Pump It Up, which everybody else is playing. And then once I started playing Pump It Up, I just got hooked and just went from there.
Yeah, I totally know how you feel, and as you were talking, it brought back so many vivid memories of not only Disney Quest, but when I first started playing Dance Dance Revolution, I started in 2003. So I've been going for 17 years, which is just just totally nuts. I never would have thought back then that, I would be 30-something years old and still playing dance games and actually be better than when I started. But it just your story reminded me of when I think the Pump It Up machines at Disney Quest were on a different floor than what they ended at. And they were like next to the elevators, I thought, or something like that. I remember there was 2 Pump It Up machines. I think it was like Exceed, and then like maybe Exceed 2 or something. Because I remember seeing Beethoven Virus and Winter and stuff like that. But just having so many fond memories, and then thinking about Rocky's Replay and being able to play DDR there, and really just having a great time. But I wish I had met you sooner, because I can't really remember when I met you. I think it's maybe when you were working at Disney, and that's when I like officially met you. And I think that might have been maybe when Fiesta was there, and maybe Fiesta 2 as well. I can't remember. It seems it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but in a way it kind of is. So that's really cool to hear your story, man, and like to see the smile it brings to your face, talking about those memories, and being to express that in the stories, and all your friends coming together and play, because that's something I do miss about the game. It's hard to do that now, of course, because of everything we've been through this year, but those days where you put your quarter up or your token up on the machine, like, hey, I'm next, that's my spot, that doesn't happen anymore. Mostly because arcades have just gotten away from that. So, do you have any, very fond, like, memories playing any dance games that you can speak of or want to speak of? Or, any great accomplishments? Like, maybe, did you think that you would be playing as long as you've been playing now?
I didn't expect that. Yeah, if you would have asked me, like, when I was, like, 14, 15, are you still going to be playing in your 30s, I probably wouldn't expect to. Even at the time, I probably would have said I would have liked to still playing. I am happy I'm still playing this game. But, those always the fondest memories were back at Disney Quest when it was open. And, you just had such a close group of guys, and met you a little bit later down the road. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was probably around, I don't know, NX2 or Fiesta days. Mm-hmm. I think that's when the dance machines were on the 4th floor. For those of you who know Disney Quest, went from 3rd floor to 4th floor. They had one machine, then 2 machines, and then two Pump It Up machines and a DDR. But I still like playing DDR as well. I mean, Pump It Up has always been my favorite. And then and then I feel like since I started playing Pump It Up, I've gotten a lot more interested in playing other rhythm games as well. I feel like once you have a knack in one of them, you kind of can pick up another game. For example, I was in Japan last year, and they had a game I've never seen before called Mai Mai. It's kind of like, people that know it, looks like a washing machine. They have buttons all around. But I feel like if I never would have played a dance machine to start, it probably would have been a lot harder to get into it, because it's kind of the same kind of concept. You hit the rhythm, the notes as they come to match up with the song. So I mean, I'm happy to still be playing rhythm games and and Pump It Up.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right when you say how you can transition from one game to another game. And it's funny, because I think most people, they start out playing a dance game, and you're using part of your body parts of your body, you're using both your legs and your feet, that normally you think if you're playing a game with your hands, you'd probably do a lot better, because your hands are made to do things quickly and little processing of thinking about it, whereas your feet, you know, how it's like you take this and there's some, you know, you're a good pump it up player too, but then you watch somebody else who's like beyond your skill level or my skill level, and you know, it's just you're just like, wow, how do they even do that? And then you see other people who can transition to another game. Like, I'm always astounded when I can see somebody play pop and music very well, given that's a 9-button game. And I'm like, man, you know, I might be okay at Pump or DDR or Dance Maniacs or something, but I really wish I was that guy playing pop and music.
It's tough.
Yeah, and I want to say that, I want to believe that pop and music is, you know, of course it's really popular in Japan because that's where it's from, and that, you know, I probably would have more of a connection to that game if I was living there and knew the language better than I do and that sort of thing. But you're speaking about Mai, which I have really no experience with, but I've seen it, and you know, I wish I was more involved in different rhythm games other than just Pump It Up, because I feel like in a way I've kind of cut myself off from other communities and meeting other people. But it's like, man, part of it is like, oh, I only have time, you know, I'm limited amount of time during the week, so I think if I'm going to do something that I like, I'm going to do the one thing I really like, and I don't have that carefree attitude as I did when I was in my early 20s or late, you know, super late teens.
Exactly.
Where I'm just like, oh, Friday and Saturday and Sunday I'm going to the arcade, like I'm going to spend, you know, this money and I'm going to play and just be there all weekend. But going back to Pump It Up, I mean, you know, what makes you really like the game? Do you enjoy the music, or, you know, do you like the step charts a lot? What makes you, you know, pick somewhat, you know, Pump It Up over DDR or another dance game like In the Groove? I mean, In the Groove, I guess, is a bit more limited because there was only ever really 2 games of it, but, you know, you still have Step Maniacs and stuff like that too, which I don't know if you've gotten a chance to play that. But what made you say, hey, I like DDR, but I think I'm going to go over here, or do you not feel that way?
Well, when I first started playing DDR, it's like I enjoyed it, and then, you know, to be honest, one of the reasons I went to Pump It Up because, like, you know, most of my friends were playing it. It was the newer game. It was the fresh game at Disney Quest at the time, and it was kind of like a little bit intimidating. I wasn't sure. It did seem user friendly, but when I started playing it, I was like, okay, it's really tough because you don't know where you're placing your feet because now you're dealing with 5 arrows instead. But then, you know, once you got used to it and, you know, and you're improving, I felt like there's a lot more flow to Pump It Up compared to DDR. You know, with the way you turn your body, that you can. There's a lot more variations of steps. I like the music better in general, like kind of on DDR for the most part, especially it was the original DDR at the time. They had just their basic kind of like the Euro techno kind of music, which was fine. But then you went to Pump It Up, you know, they had all the Korean, the K-pop. And at the time, I didn't really know anything about K-pop music at the time. It's funny how I've gotten other interests that stemmed from Pump It Up because of playing that. All of a sudden, now I'm a huge K-pop fan because of Pump It Up.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, you know, and you know, I love a lot of things from Korean culture in general too, from playing Pump It Up. So I think your interests kind of stem out into other things. But yeah, like I felt like Pump It Up was just a lot more flow overall. Like, you know, and then especially I transitioned. I really enjoyed playing doubles, and I would say, like, some people say I'm a doubles player because they see me playing doubles most of the time. But I feel like there's a lot more flow, like when, you know, with the step charts and just compared to DDR. And I will say that In the Groove, for me, I always found that, I don't know, just in my opinion, I always felt like the step charts were better on DDR than DDR for In the Groove, even though they're the same kind of concepts.
Yeah, I think it's just because, you know, within the Groove, they were able to take more risk. I remember, I don't know if I've told you this story before, but I'll tell it for the podcast listeners out there, that, you know, I remember playing In the Groove the first time ever. And I, you know, was an avid DDR player at the time. And I'm like, okay, what is this game? And it was, what didn't help In the Groove at the time is that it was an In the Groove 1 cab. And it wasn't even an In the Groove cab, it was a DDR cab with In the Groove in it. And I'm like, I'm at Rocky's Replay, what is this game? Like, what is this? This looks weird. Like, and it was like In the Groove One was a bit strange to me. You know, being a DDR player and seeing how polished DDR was with its interface. And it's not to say that In the Groove 1 looked bad or In the Groove 2 looked bad. It was just different. Yeah. But I remember playing Queen of Light for the first time on Expert and seeing more than 2 arrows at a time. And I turned back to my friend who was there hanging out with me, and I just look at him, and I have my hands up in the air, like, what was that? Like, what is this game? Like, because you could hit more than 2? Like...
so In the Groove was the first game where you saw the concept, okay, there's 3 arrows coming at the same time. The first time I've seen that was on Pump, and I thought that was interesting.
I can't remember if I ever saw that on Pump. I may have at the time, because this was about 2005, 2006 that we're talking about. So, and I was in between DDR, Pump, and In the Groove all at the same time, and it was more so, I think it was more so DDR and In the Groove, because Pump wasn't really around as much. I mean, you had Disney Quest, of course, but Disney Quest, and we'll back up a little bit. Let me back up a little bit, because we got to give the listeners an idea of what Disney Quest was, just in case you guys don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
But Disney Quest was a arcade. It was 5 floors at the Walt Disney Resort in, I think is it Lake Buena Vista? Where they're located? Lake Buena Vista. And it's no longer there anymore. They demolished the building and they made it into the NBA Experience. But it was this arcade that you could go to. And you would pay, I think it was like $40-something to get in. And you could go in for the entire day and play all these classic arcade games. I think they had your Pac-Man, they had Galaga, Galaxian, Dig Dug. I think they might have had Donkey Kong.
They had almost every classic game you could think of.
Yeah, and so like this place was absolutely fantastic. And then they had like an experience where you could build your own roller coaster.
Yeah, like all the virtual reality.
Yeah, did you ever do that? Did you ever go in a line and build your roller coaster?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, I even knew all the techniques on how to make it so you had the most loops possible.
Yeah, like you'd see the it had like a screamo-meter or something, and then it was like the baby roller coaster was like one person smiling or something.
To see how intense
and then like
it was.
a level 5 was like all the people were terrified to ride it, and it wasn't even that bad. Like it was a Disney, build your own roller coaster kind of thing. But like the best part about that whole experience was not only did you get to build your own roller coaster, but you got to build it with Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah.
So I know you're a little bit younger than me, but I'm sure you remember maybe in school watching episodes of Bill Nye the Science Guy. And they're like, Bill, Bill Nye the Science Guy.
That's a classic.
Yeah. Like. So anyway, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but we go to play Pump It Up, and really the only place you could go was Disney Quest back then, or you could go to one of the Disney resorts, because pretty much every Disney resort, I think it was a written rule, like, hey, you got to open a Disney resort, you have to have a Pump It Up machine in here, because they pretty much all had.
Yeah, it must have been in their contract.
Yeah, I think Ondemuro like sponsored the arcade or something. It's like, hey, yeah, you're putting this machine in there. You know that DDR game? No. You can't have that game.
Yeah.
No, we're just kidding. But and another thing about Disney Quest too, and you can elaborate this on this if you want, is that towards the end, well, first of all, they had a Dance Dance Revolution machine. And you say, okay, yeah, we know they had a Dance Dance Revolution machine, Krev, but no, I mean First Mix machine. They had a DDR First Mix machine, which is the one and only time I've ever seen one. And I remember thinking that game was so hard because there were no speed modifiers back then. That didn't happen until 6 Mix. But I just feel like that. I just remember that DDR being harder, right? Like, didn't it? Am I making it up in my own head? I felt like that was a hard game.
Well, it definitely felt hard when I started.
Yeah, like maybe that's what it was. And I remember just trying to, hit an eighth note was so weird because I'm not a musical guy. I am now, because I can play drums a little bit and I play on my cajon, which is just basically a hollow box with a snare or something in it. But I didn't grow up playing any instruments. Did you grow up playing any instruments or anything?
No, I always wish I did, but no.
Yeah, so like I didn't either because I was, I always wanted to play my Sega Genesis or my Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I was always in
64.
more just playing video games or soccer. I've always been playing soccer my whole life.
Yeah, like at least you had that too because you go outside. Me, I wasn't. I mean, I would go outside and play and stuff, and that, but I was never like really into sports or anything. I always liked to draw. I was into comic books and stuff. But it's when I started getting into Dance Dance Revolution, you said how like when you got into Pump, it opened up your eyes and let you see things like, oh, I love Korean music now. I love Korean. I want to try Korean food. I want to try this. I want to try that. And whereas like anime got me interested more in Japanese culture because that's an easy door that a lot of people will go through to learn more about Japan and become interested in that and go from there.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, Dance Dance Revolution really helped me expand in every facet of my life. Like, because I want to have a website dedicated to Dance Dance Revolution or something. And then I eventually made a website dedicated to Pump. So then that got me into what I actually do for a job a little bit, which is, creating websites and creating graphics and creating videos and, doing little audio editing here. So has being in this community, done anything like that for you to an extent, like where it really changed your life? I mean, I know the friendships with people that you meet, like you become really good friends, but has it done anything for you? Like I know you've said you've been to Japan before, but was that what got you interested in that, or was DDR like was that something that influenced you to go to Japan, or?
Well, I've always been interested in video games and like arcades in particular, and like when I started playing DDR, I would say it's amazing like how a game, I would say actually more so from Pump It Up, was I kind of transitioned from DDR to Pump It Up pretty fast because that was like I said, the new game at the time. But yeah, it's amazing how you kind of build relationships with people just from this one game. Like Disney Quest in particular, people came from all over the world. Like we had so many people in our group that even people would they come from like once a year, that even we didn't see them every weekend. They lived in another state, sometimes another country, but we knew that like this particular time of the year they're gonna spend like almost their entire vacation in Disney Quest because we have this one game in common. But then like that branches out, I'm still in touch with a lot of friends, including yourself, like after all these years. And it's crazy to think that it stemmed from this game. I don't know, there are too many games like in the arcade world that you could say that like you develop these friendships that started with, I don't know, I can't think of like somebody starting from like a Pac-Man game unless it's at like the highest level in some of these competitions. But it's amazing that people come together to play this game, and especially if it's in this particular location. And and like you said, it also turns into it stems out into other interests for music, the culture in general. Learning about whether it's in DDR, it stems out into learning for about Japanese culture. Well, for me, when I went to Japan, like as you know, the main reason I went, like my fiance is from Japan, but besides that, I've always loved Japanese culture in general. So I'm happy that she's Japanese because I always love Japanese culture too. So that was a great reason to be. I'm glad she's Japanese because I can get to go to Japan. But yeah, I wouldn't say I went there particularly because it stemmed from something about from playing DDR, but it definitely, I would say, opened my eyes into seeing more about the culture. Like when it comes to Pump It Up for Korean culture, now I have like an obsession for K-pop and K-dramas.
And actually
it all started from just listening to music from Pump It Up. It's just like, oh, that's a weird song. At first, you don't even get the concept. Like, these are songs that people listen into Korea. You think in your mind, these are just songs that are made for the video game.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's funny to think like these are actually like just regular like pop songs that are in Korea. So then you're researching. We had our forums that we used to go on to called Pump Haven from everybody that knows Pump listening. Like So then they had like their whole archive of all like the K-pop songs or all the Banya songs that are on the game, and then you have an enjoyment even just listening to it, like beyond just seeing it with a step chart.
I mean, I totally get you there. Like, and it, Pump Haven, unfortunately, they had to take down a lot of their media, like a lot of those songs and stuff. But before they did, I managed to snag a copy of some stuff that I know it's a bit hard to find. I mean, you could probably go to YouTube and find something older, but I really like that. I mean, I love newer K-pop too, since we're on the topic of K-pop again. But I really like older K-pop, like that first generation.
Yeah, same.
So and I have a bunch of K-pop on my phone, and so I got stuff like Uni on there. I have like Lee Hyundo or Hyundo, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, or like Beitgi. There's just so much of it that, yeah, you may not understand the words, but like, we all understand the language of music, and if something makes you want to get up and dance, you're just gonna dance. But it is funny how you say, like, yeah, this is a K-pop group who is possibly even touring the world. Like, you have a group like Blackpink, who's astronomically just gigantic right now. I think they just dropped an album. I haven't even listened to it, but they rolled into town and I was able to go. I probably would go, and that would be a guilty pleasure, but I would totally do something like that just because I love Pump It Up so much, and I'm interested in that culture. And yeah, K-pop is like, it's kind of like eating candy, but everybody, for the most part, likes candy,
Yeah.
And it's so colorful, and it just kind of takes you away. And to me, it's also the language too. It's another reason why I like Japanese so much, is because I love the language, and the music and the pop music too. Even Japan is really great. But yeah, it's just one of those things, and it's funny like how you're playing a Dreamcatcher song, and you're like, yeah, somebody's probably listening to this on the radio in Korea or something.
Yeah,
there's some teenage girls or guys maybe that love this group, and they have a poster like hanging on their wall maybe or something. I don't know if that happens. I'm sure it has to, because it's a big business over there.
Yeah, it's so easy to think that when you're playing these games that, like, okay, these songs are just made for just made for they designed them for the dance machine, but they're just they're actually popular songs. Like, you realize that, especially when I started, like I was like 14, 15, it's like, kind of hits you like, oh wow, these are actually songs when you actually research them, like,
oh yeah,
after playing them, these are songs that are popular overseas. And when I started working in Disney, I remember, like, I'll mention some Korean songs I know to like my Korean coworkers that work in Disney that are in the international college program. They'd be amazed, like, how do you know these songs? And it's like, I have to explain to them, yeah, I know if I'm playing Pump It Up. And it's just like, sometimes they would ask me, oh, have you traveled to Korea? You lived here for a little while?
Yeah.
I know a lot about the culture, but it's amazing. They found it amazing that it just came from this game, which sometimes they're not even familiar about.
And I think I've certainly been guilty of this, where you think that every Korean person knows about.
Yeah, exactly. You
because
learn that it's not that popular amongst most Koreans just because it comes from Korea.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I don't know if that's a stereotype. I guess maybe it kind of is, but it's just like, it just goes to show you that not everybody knows about it. But one thing I do really like about Pump It Up too is that that I appreciate that music more. And again, it's like appreciating the culture more and wanting to open your mind and learn more, about it. So, well, we got a little bit of time left, so I kind of wanted to get your thoughts, because X has ended officially. So I wanted to get your thoughts, since you've been playing it for a little while now, and we've had the machine at District for well over a year now, I think. Just give me a little bit of your thoughts on the game, compared to other Pump It Up games you've played. What you like, what you dislike, what you think could be done better, what you think they did really well. And I'll let you have the floor, so go ahead and I'll just open it up to you.
Yeah, sure. Like, definitely I like a lot of the newer songs, like, because of the new, like, Pump XX, I became, like, a fan, like Mamamoo, the groups like that. And I think one of the things I would say a little bit disappointing. They took a lot of the old songs. I can understand like these licenses are expensive and they can't keep them for all the newest versions, but I have to say I really love the interface. You know, especially now I have like the I don't know what you call it, the AM card, the
pass card,
AM pass cards where you can log all your scores, and you know that's a pretty cool feature. And then I like the fact that the auto velocity is a huge thing. I'm not sure they had that since, I believe, was it Pump It Up?
I think they technically had it in Pump It Up Prime, but it didn't work the same way that it works now. I think
Fiesta 2 didn't have it, right?
I don't remember if they had it in was it Fiesta 2?
Fiesta 2, yeah.
Fiesta 2, no, they didn't. I think it was introduced in Prime. I could be mistaken. So if you guys...
Not Fiesta, that's what I meant. Prime 2. Or Prime 2.
So
okay.
Prime 2, it definitely had it, but...
Okay, yeah. So that's a great feature that... Because, you know, you're always, like, sometimes in that limbo. Even though, like, the 2.5x or whatever when you're with your sight read, sometimes it's better than just having to go from like a transition from 2x to 3x, you know. You're always sometimes in that middle ground, but even you realize that even the difference between like 2.5 to 3x is still like there's still like a gap that you're not. For me, like, you know, my sight read is like so bad. I always have to have it like so perfect. So for me, it's great to have auto velocity where you can just set the speed of a song like you know, consistently, where you can see it in a certain way that you like to, that's comfortable for you. But besides that, yeah, a lot of new songs. I would prefer them to even have more songs, keep a lot of the older ones, but yeah, the step charts are really good. I like that the fact that they added even more doubles performance charts, because we always like playing those together.
Oh yeah, and, there was one patch they added. I think it was like something like 11. I think it was like 11 co-op charts in one patch one time, and I remember reading the comments of the YouTube videos, and people were really upset because, as all of you know, we've been going through, you know, COVID-19 and whatnot. So there people are like, well, we can't play these charts together. We're not supposed to be, you know, doing this kind of thing. What? You know, and some people are upset because I can't even go to the arcade, and we totally feel for you guys, because I'm pretty sure there's still places out there where people can't even go back to the arcade, and they probably haven't played, you know, since March or before that. So
yeah,
you know, but yeah, the co-ops are cool. It's nice that they added a lot. You know, I think that they could add some more charts to other songs too. Like, I think, you know, just adding all those co-op charts for right now, they, you know, maybe it was just bad timing because of everything that happened, but we don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes there at on the Muro in Korea, so we don't know exactly what they were thinking.
Yeah, sure. It's tough for them to just kind of like try to time it perfectly, and we will all, if you know, if you unfortunately can't try them out now, you just play them as soon as you have the chance.
Yeah, like
hopefully they're not going anywhere.
We just spray each other down with some Lysol or something. Like, if we're like, hey, here you go.
One thing I would like to see them add with the co-op, the whole thing with the co-op's charts, is to put like a difficulty level for each one. You just, the only thing they really specify is, okay, this is a 2-person chart or a 3-person, but you don't really know. Like, if you haven't tried it yet, it's like you don't know what you're getting yourself into exactly.
It's like, do I need to have 8 limbs to play this chart, or, you know, something like
or
that?
Even just to see how tough it is. Like, it's nice to see, like, okay, this is a level 17 co-op, but it's just like there's no specifying how tough a co-op is, so you don't really know unless you know, try it. And then if you're in an arcade where, you know, you don't have the luxury of being at a place like Disney Quest where everything's on free play, where, you know, if you just fail, if you fail real quick, you can just turn it back on and reboot it up again and just, you know, keep. But, you know, at the same time, it's I'm glad that they added more songs. But yeah, that was one thing I would probably add. That
what do you feel about the title system? Have you really delved into that much? Because, you know, you can get different titles unlocked by, you know, getting to certain achievements or something like that, or just even the amount of plays that you have. Because I think, like, if you do like 100 plays, I think you get gold member, and then like 500 plays is platinum member, and then 1,000's like diamond member.
Oh, okay.
And you know what's funny is that I went onto the website and I saw there's like, I think it's like 5,000 plays, 10,000 plays that you get certain titles, and I'm like, what?
I feel bad for not getting that AM Pass a while ago. So I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I got it more recently because I was just like, I don't know, maybe I have laziness. I didn't order for a while, but luckily, one of the guys that goes there, Galen, he had an extra card that I was able to buy off of him. So I think I think I'm probably at about 40 plays right now. But yeah, I like the system. Like I've seen it randomly where I've played a game and it's be like you've unlocked this chart now, which is pretty cool. And some of these charts that I guess that needed unlocking, I try them. They're really good. So I'm glad that I've had these passes, but I probably would have never even knew about some of these charts if it wasn't for that.
Oh, that's totally true.
With the unlocking system, yeah.
Yeah, and that's so true because they used to do this more so in the past than now, but there were certain charts that you could only play if you had an AM pass, and it was more prevalent, I think, in Prime 2 than it's been in XX, because in XX they have like a few. I think like Boomerang has a like AM Pass exclusive chart, so you can't play it without the AM Pass. But they seem to like limit that so much, because it's just some people can't get one, or your arcade. I think they get maybe 10 or maybe 50 at the most. I thought I heard 50 floating around. Like they would sell 50 and then that would be it. So then you would have to find someone that just happened to have like a million of them laying around that wanted to sell them to you. But with that said, I think we'll start to wrap things up here. So, Josef, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Thanks for hanging out. We talked about 35 minutes here, and I really appreciate all your stories, and of course for the friendship too, for over so many years now. And hopefully I'd like to have you back on again if you're willing, and maybe we could have more people. And if you guys out there, if you're listening, I also want to thank you guys so much for listening to the Quintessential Rhythm Podcast. And if you guys want to be a part, I'm always looking for people who, let's say if you're, an artist and you're selling Pump It Up or DDR or just rhythm game related shirts or knickknacks, anything like that, you can always feel free to contact me through my email, through YouTube, Pump Pro Plus Facebook or Twitter accounts. And we'd love to have you on the show. So again, thank you, Josef, for being here.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. It's been great. So.
Yeah, no problem. So,
it's an honor to be one of the first few on your podcast, and I know it's going to do big things in the future. Definitely,
man. Like I'm hoping that we can have a good place that people can come on and share the love of all these games. And it doesn't have to be just dance games. It could be Poppin', 2DX, Dance Maniacs, whatever, and even stuff that we don't know about. So I'm hoping to have some other people on here. I'd like to get Lean Beef on here. So I think if we could get Lean Beef on, I could have you come back because you guys have
definitely,
good friendship too. So I think that'd be super cool. But thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next time, guys.